One thing I wanted to talk to you, Tim, about was, you talked earlier about, kind of the evaluation and the appraisals, not really the appraisal side of things, but assessing a property. In the residential real estate world, we have a lot of challenges with appraisals today because, the third-party management companies and a lot of different scenarios cause problems in appraisals. I would assume that in commercial, you're not having deals get blown up by appraisals very often. It's not the same kind of scenario.
Well, I'm not doing a lot of mortgage-type investments these days, as I mentioned
Mostly cash.
earlier. But I will tell you, when a bank is involved, they look at, of course, the current lease, if there is one in place. If there's no cash coming from the property, they don't look too favorably on that, unless it's a property that someone is buying for a really good price, and the mortgage is going to dictate that there's going to be probably a huge down payment required and some sort of other security backing for the borrower.
So when you're talking about someone selling a commercial property in the residential world, like we can talk how long it normally takes to sell a home. Like, so for example, in our market, the average is kind of hovered around 100 days. Now it's closer to like 90 days for the average before home sells. Our team's average is about 20 days, so we're outpacing the market pretty dramatically in terms of how quick we sell a home, which puts more money in the client's pocket. But nonetheless, in the commercial world, what is it typical, when someone calls you and says, I want to sell my property, how long is it going to take? I know that there are a lot of variables that come into play, but what are some range numbers, that you can kind of give out historically of, if you put your commercial property on the market, you can expect it to take anywhere between what and what to sell? And I know that time's longer than residential.
Well, because there's so many factors involved. Number one is the price, just like your experience with residential. Until you get it priced right, but it's not going to sell. And when I approach evaluation, I approach someone wanting to sell their asset. I basically do the same analysis I do with all my commercial real estate. And as I mentioned earlier, it's all about the numbers. Once I do the numbers and see what the return possibilities are, then we price it with that in mind. And the bank stuff that I do the same analysis on, and I'm factoring in about a 10% return.
Right. So would you say that commercial property tends to take longer to sell than residential? I mean, would that be pretty normal, correct?
Just like any seller, they always like to start high. So if you look at the numbers factor, I may have an investor that says, oh, I know someone will buy this property if they can get a 6-7% return. That's better than the stock market and CDs, etc. But I tell them, I go, if it's an excellent property, possibly.
But that's also a risk too, because their stock can't get blown down by a hurricane. Their CD can't, so I mean, for them, like I've always thought that if you're going to buy real estate as an investment, it's got to return better than something that's more liquid, because, it's going to take longer to sell it when you have to sell it, and because, they're just, it's just easy, it's easier to invest in Wall Street than it is real estate, because you got management and you got tenants and you got problems and AC units go out. So the return's got to be at least significantly better for someone to take that risk.
Oh, absolutely. And just like as we were talking before, the risk is the biggest factor in commercial real estate today. Is the tenant good? Is the cash flow good? The stability factor of the tenant is everything, because it's taking quite a long time to put tenants in buildings today.
When you say quite a long time, what would you, 3, 6, 9 months? What's that? What do you think on that front?
Well, the economy's still down, so not a lot of people are opening up the mom and pop shops like they used to. Not a lot of people are starting a real estate office, let's say, or a dentist office, or a medical office. Medical's doing pretty well, but any entrepreneur that says, I want to lease a building to start a business, or maybe my business is growing and I want to move into something bigger, we don't see those signs yet. It looks like it's going to pick up, but it's a big risk now, and one of the problems today with valuations of commercial real estate is the lease rates have been cut in half from just 3 years ago.
Yeah, and again, I think part of that is, like you mentioned, businesses downsizing, businesses closing, people going to work from home, eliminating overhead, to try and survive, so to speak. So again, if you've been listening, you're interested in commercial real estate, whether you're interested in buying commercial real estate, getting an evaluation, go to search TampaCommercial.com. Again, the website, for us to help you with commercial real estate needs is search TampaCommercial.com.